Good morning and welcome to the morning deal happening right here on Dissect TV. It is the first day of a new month and the time is now 30 minutes past 6 in the morning. My name is Kelvin Mungai.
And I am Wairimu, Mugo. Very good morning to you. Many thanks for tuning to Dissect TV and choosing it as your channel of choice. This is the Morning Dew Show where we'll be taking you through the dailies. Kelvin will also be talking to people about what's happening in the political arena. And later on, we'll discuss about what makeup to wear when and to wear. This is all in the Morning Dew Show. So stay tuned. There is so much for you ahead.
Now, as usual, Wairimu Mugo has the Standard. I have the Daily Nation. And today's newspaper is not really a newspaper. I think it is more of a book. This is the heaviest newspaper we have had in quite a while.
Oh, that's the Daily Nation.
Yes, it is. Do remember that you can leave us your feedback on any one of our social media platforms. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Or you can send us your feedback on 23595 or on the number running on your screen. The headlines. There is quite a lot happening in the Daily Nation today. But the main headline is Ruto brokers truce among UDA aspirants. Calming the storm from Nyeri to Kirinyaga to Tharaka Nithi and Narok, the DP is turning to negotiated democracy to counter internal wrangling and competition among allies in grassroots politics. That is a story that continues on page 4 and 5. UDA has recalled membership register in readiness for nominations. Dr. Ruto is expected to be the UDA flag bearer, but all other elective posts are up for grabs. That is a story that continues on page 12 and 13.
Well, on the Standard newspaper, we have several headlines here. We have Kenyan students caught up in Ukraine conflict, a story that is on the page 14 of the Standard newspaper. We also have a big header here, Kalonzo, man who holds AZIMIO'S fate. And this is about Uhuru succession politics, and I quote, Wiper leader has kept allies and rivals guessing. Will he join hands with Raila and Uhuru? If he will, why has he welcomed Moses Kuria, their critic, into Oka? The next 12 days will reveal his true colors and shape presidential poll, as well as high-flying Kenyans splurge on helicopters. And this is a story you don't want to miss. That is on the page 31 of the Standard newspaper, and talks about rich men and women in Kenya who defied COVID. Yep.
Oh, wow, that is a story I'm definitely going to be reading after this show. Now, on to more about the story of Kalonzo. Kalonzo and Raila wars rock Azimio. Clash of Titans. They have worked together before, building a formidable force under the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy. That was what was known as CORD. That gave Kenyatta a run for his money in the last two elections. However, an acrimonious parting of ways last year has come back to haunt them, and even though they need each other now, the betrayal of the past sticks out like a sore thumb. Both want to lead the Azimio flag to the elections, and both are stubborn to the core. What happens now? Again, a story on pages 4 and 5. And why Mumias is Miwani in the making. John Kamau notes that when it was built in 1971, Mumia Sugar Company was supposed to be the largest sugar miller in Kenya. Now, like Miwani Sugar Company before it, the miller is going through motions of rot, and both are caught up in a web of politics. Then the CS assures on security during tests, that is Professor George Magoha. And there is Kenyans battling rare diseases. Then more on the economy on page 14.
Well, before we get deep into politics, I want us to check a story on the page 7 of the Standard newspaper, and it's about how Larrys could disrupt work as handouts drive economy in poll years. Well, this is a story of what's been happening each and every day in our country, and an interview from Herman Mureithi, who is a Boda rider, said, when we attend these Larrys, the politicians leave us some money. Sometimes it is more than we could make. And this rider has continued to tell the story of how Boda riders just attend a Larry. And a good insight here is a story from Chaka in Nyeri County. However, this Boda Boda rider could not have attended, but his friends or allies attended the rallies and were pocketed 2,000 shillings each. So transport was also catered for, so the 2,000 was additional money because there was transport. And this is what has been happening in the rural areas when politicians' campaigns are in full swing. Handouts start to fly in the faces of people who have been waiting for just that. Businesses get paralyzed as people attend rallies, the easiest sources of money, but sometimes this money comes at a cost, fights and injuries. And one of the people quoted here is Nancy Ndanu, who narrates her story in Muvuti sublocation that is in Machakos County. And she says, disruptions happen in every election cycle. When aspirants hit the campaign trail, it is a horror story for small businesses. Shops are closed and everyone follows the campaigners. Euphoria sweeps everyone, she says. So as much as it is a good thing, it is a bad thing for the small businesses, and I feel that is not about to change. With more and more campaigns coming and with more and more aspirants wanting to prove that who is more moneyed than the other. But I hope our Kenyan people can change culture and decide that they would close their business for the 2,000, for the one day 2,000, and then lose up on business later.
Yeah. But then, as it has been stated, sometimes the 2,000 is more than they make in that particular day.
Definitely.
And sometimes maybe if they're having a particularly bad week, they may opt to go for the 2,000 as opposed to the 500 that they usually make. Now, tensions between Raila and Kalonzo spoil Azimio plans. That is a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Hardliners in their respective camps yesterday vowed not to give up on the flag bearer post amid a row over renaming of the coalition. Kalonzo Musyoka wants the Azimio name to be changed from Azimio to Azimio One Kenya Alliance, which I don't think will sit well with any of the people who are in the Azimio camp. The renaming of the coalition is emerging as another contentious issue, escalating tensions from the weekend when Mr. Musyoka's entry scuttled a plan to formally crown Mr. Odinga as the alliance's presidential candidate. As the mistrust between the former allies raged, Mr. Odinga supporters who were keen to have him anointed the Azimio la Umoja presidential flag bearer after parallel ODM and Jubilee party meetings at the weekend are now accusing their partners of instigating protracted negotiations to run down the clock. There's a bit of an insert there, sticking points in push to form a broad coalition. That is, the mistrust of the former allies raged. Mr. Odinga supporters who were keen to have him anointed the Azimio la Umoja presidential flag bearer after parallel ODM and Jubilee meetings at the weekend are now accusing their partners of instigating protracted negotiations to run down the clock. Mr. Musyoka's One Kenya Alliance has announced its bid to join Mr. Odinga's Azimio la Umoja, but disagreements on whether negotiations will be done through individual parties or as a coalition, the running mate position is available for Oka, and what the Wiper leader's role will be in the outfit are other sticking issues threatening the talks. Signs of trouble and suspicion started brewing on Saturday when President Kenyatta led the ruling party's National Delegates Convention at the Jomo Kenyatta International Convention Center, when Mr. Musyoka appeared to cast doubts on the possibility of Mr. Odinga steering the new coalition. Instead, Mr. Musyoka appealed to the head of state to take control of the coalition, something that did not go down well with Mr. Odinga's lieutenants, before the Wiper leader gave the ODM leaders Azimio meeting at Kasarani Gymnasium a wide berth. This is evident, the mistrust between Kalonzo and Raila is evident of the number of times in the past that Kalonzo considers to have been betrayed by Honorable Raila Odinga, whether it was in CORD or in NASA. and now he doesn't feel safe joining Azimio with Raila as the leader of the coalition. So he wants President Kenyatta to take the helm, and then at least that way I think he feels like he has some sense of security in his future within the coalition. Like for instance, maybe during the next general elections, once Honorable Raila Odinga is not running for any seat, then maybe that position to be the flag bearer will be given to Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, because that was one of the points in which they disagreed in NASA, was that the NASA was not to field a candidate this year. But then there is Honorable Raila Odinga wanting to be the flag bearer.
Kalonzo is turning out to be an interesting person, and a person of interest, as he is like now the bride that everybody wants them to join. And according to the Standard newspaper, we have Enoch Wambua, who is a Kitui senator, saying, "We are not ready for another loss. We are not ready to repeat a mistake for the third time." And one, Oka wants to either produce a flag bearer or a running mate for Azimio, and a demand that might not sit well with either Raila or Uhuru, because Raila is expected to pick a running mate from Mount Kenya. And I quote unquote here, who is a Kitui Central MP. No, this is Enoch Wambua saying, "Joining Azimio la Umoja is the desired outcome, but negotiations could end up either way. Should they end in a stalemate, Kalonzo still has the option of being on the ballot, a move that could deny either of the leading contenders the magical 50% plus one vote that they need to win the presidency in the first round. This could precipitate a repeat election in which Kalonzo's move will tilt the balance." And Kitui Central MP Makali Muli continues to say, "If a situation comes that we will see our numbers, even if we went alone, push us to opposition, and we are unlikely to push for a runoff, then hardliners have to swallow their pride and agree to go for a position which is good for the party members and the country." He appeared to suggest that Kalonzo still has many options, and I feel the same too. He has an option to go alone. Okay, he may not get the numbers, but he will kind of disorient the voting system to not make the two win, and then have a better say during the rerun. So as much as he seems to be fence sitting, he seems to be annoying, to be kind of wise in what he's doing. And again, according to Maanzo, who is Makueni MP, he said if Kalonzo decides to support Raila, he will go alone without Ukambani people. That will be a political divorce from Ukambani votes. There is also that. Because a major part of the Ukambani votes feels that Raila has betrayed them for the longest time. Maybe they know, as much as they have Charity Ngilu, they have several leaders from Ukambani side. However, Kalonzo is still kind of the king bearer and commands quite a following there. So it's a win-win situation, and we're really expecting. Is it today or tomorrow? Tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes.
That he's supposed to be saying whether he'll be joining Azimio or not. Yeah,
and we do look forward to that. But I do think that if he holds up and decides to go it alone and then wait for the rerun, if it happens, then he may have more negotiating power than he does at this point. But then my question to you, our viewer, ahead of the hotspot segment is this. Is there any other leader that can bring the Ukambani vote to either camp, that is either to Kenya Kwanza or to Azimio? Is there any leader that can bring the Ukambani vote to either Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, that is anyone else other than Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka? We will be sampling some of your answers and your feedbacks at the end of the show. You can leave them to us on 23595. You can send them to us on WhatsApp via the number running on your screen, or you can drop your feedback on comments and answers to that question on any one of our social media platforms.
Well, the major twist there is Moses Kuria joining Oka. And he categorically said he can't work with AZIMIO. Interesting times. I'm really looking forward for tomorrow, but I know KALONZO is not joining. He's not voting.
Well,
let's hear what people in Hotspot will say.
Yeah, let's hear what they will say. We will also be fielding another question as the Hotspot runs. I think as it begins, we will field another question for you because we want to hear what you have to say. Now, on page 6, there is a story: Ruto brokers truces in Mount Kenya and the rift. In the latest move, DP Ruto negotiated a truce between Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga and the county's UDA coordinator Wahome Wamatinga, who were both eyeing the same seat in the August 9th elections. This is the deputy president's way of quelling the wrangles within the party and those that may come up later on with the nominations, because if either one of these people are eyeing for the same position in the same seat with the same party, then there may be wrangles and he may lose some of the people. And you know, unlike the AZIMIO camp, the deputy president has been very selective with the people that he chooses to join his alliance. I mean, it's not a come one, come all approach as it may seem to be in AZIMIO. He is very, very selective, and so the people that he chooses, he may not want to lose, which is why he is having these conversations with these people. So as Governor Kahiga has finalized his defection to UDA, Mr. Wamatinga will now vie for the Senate seat after stepping down for the former. The move is meant to ensure UDA does not lose any of them during the nominations. This comes after the DP 2 weeks ago asked Tharaka-Nithi Senator Kithure Kindiki to bow out of the gubernatorial race against the incumbent Muthomi Njuki. Dr. Ruto then endorsed Governor Njuki re-election bid, and it continues. The story continues, and there are so many more details that you can go into and read on page 6 of the Daily Nation. And it is quite interesting to see how the deputy president is running his alliance. I mean, he's trying to quell as many disputes as possible to keep his party, his alliance, the Kenya Kwanza alliance, together, because he believes that it can win him the highest office, the highest seat in the land.
Well, wrangles are bound to happen in any party, whether AZIMIO, whether Oka, whether UDA, they will happen.
They will happen.
Some people, it will end in premium tears. But again, it is what it is. It's politics. There are no permanent enemies, no permanent friends. So we'll be seeing party hopping, but that's it. It's politics. Yes,
and at that point, allow me to just remind our viewers of the one thing that we keep on saying repeatedly here on Morning Dew. It is because of this reason that you should not fight for any politician or any politician's ideals. They are enemies on the screen.
Yes.
On camera,
yes.
But behind the scenes and behind the cameras, these people are friends. So keep the peace. Keep the peace. Do not fight for them, and maintain that. Now we will be taking a short break, but we will be right back. Do stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Morning Dew. This is the newspaper review where we are looking at the stories that are making your headlines in the dailies today. I am taking you through the Daily Nation. Wairimu Mugo is taking you through the Standard. Well, before we went on break, we were talking about the rifts within the parties and how honorable, the deputy president is trying to fight against his party, against the Kenya Kwanza alliance breaking away. Now, there seems to be a different approach in the AZIMIO camp. This is a story that is on page 21. Kingi pact with Jubilee renews feud with ODM. The decision by Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi Pamoja African Alliance to work with President Kenyatta's Jubilee Party under the AZIMIO La Umoja coalition has triggered a fresh spat with the Orange Democratic Movement in Coast region. Now, there is a feud between Hassan Joho and Amason Kingi, and this feud is expected to intensify in the coming weeks as the two parties field candidates in each elective position. They are both interested. Amason Kingi says that other than the presidential position, they will field now, his party Power will field candidates in every other elective position, and Hassan Joho also says that he will do the same, because we know ADM is a strong party in coast, and we shall deliver not only the presidency but all elective posts. That is what Mr. Joho said. ODM has 3 aspirants for the governor seat in Kilifi. Former Devolution Chief Administrative Secretary Gideon Mungaro, who goes ahead and says Mr. Mungaro has dismissed PAR, saying his only competitor will be the UDA candidate. UDA is my only competitor. The rest will be between ODM and UDA. AZIMIO'S will form the next government. To address our problems, Kilifi must be in the government. So, again, the one thing I think that everyone on the Morning Dew and on Hotspot is looking forward to is to how these alliances will survive the coming nominations. Will they fall apart? Will they stand together? It is something that we keep on eagerly saying how eagerly we are waiting for us to see that.
Well, it's a tight situation for the aspirants in those parties, because it requires for some people to bend as others top up. I think the party leaders will have a lot of work to put the balance to at least ensure there are no wrangles, especially after nominations where these ones feel this one is more favored than the other. However, with the new bill, unfortunately, one will not be able to move out. The time frame between where you could shift is too narrow, so it could make more people, like after you fail in nominations, you just stay in the party and hope that it wins so that you can get nominated for another post while in government. Well, if they lose, then you go to get nominated in the opposition government. So it's quite a tight situation. But the party leaders, I hope, will have intelligence while doing this, because again, it could end in tears.
Yes.
So, away from politics, we have a story from Kisumu, and this is a story of suspects who broke out of Kodiaga prison, and a multi-agency security team in Kisumu has launched a manhunt for 2 female murder suspects who escaped from Kodiaga women prison. Well, according to Mr. Modhiaka, and I quote unquote what he said, "We have launched a manhunt and we will recapture them," adding that police units had been informed and had started an intense search. According to sources who asked not to be named, prison warden realized that 2 suspects were missing around 4 p.m. on Sunday during a head count. Sources further indicated the 2 suspects were last counted for at around 1 p.m. but 3 hours later they could not be found. This means the suspects could have fled during the day, and wardens are being joined by other security agencies to get to the bottom of this matter. Well, this is not the first time in Kenya we are hearing of suspects breaking out of prison. Last year, November, we had 3 terror convicts who escaped from Kamiti Maximum Prison. And there was a search where they were found in a remote village in Kitui County a few days later. Another episode was in Uasin Gishu County, Kapsoya Police Station, where police arrested 2 robbery with violence suspects who had escaped from police custody, and we are found masquerading as the street boys in Manyata slums before residents alerted security agents. Well, this is sad, just to think of how someone would get out of prison unnoticed, especially for this case where they say that we suspect. This is according to an interview that was done by the Standard, and they were told by the Standard was told the warders who were on shift when the suspects fled have been summoned, and they quote unquote we suspect they could have walked out through the gate like any other visitor. Well, that calls for a lot of questions on how secure are our prisons, especially when we take lawbreakers there. Because if someone could easily walk out of a prison just like any other visitor, then one asks, where was the they have uniform? Where was the uniform? How did they get the normal clothes, civilian clothes, to walk out? Like, who was manning the CCTV? All these questions running in our minds, and someone thinking now, even if someone offended me in cases like murder, family murder or rape cases, am I safe? Even if they go in jail, am I safe? Well, and I hope that all security bodies can address this and convince us Kenyans that it is safe for us to take any lawbreaker to jail.
Indeed, because there are some of these people who live in fear, especially when they hear that some of the people that they testified against are finally on the loose, because vindictive people do exist, and most of them are bitter and they could cause harm. So if that story persists, if that situation persists, I think it could interfere with the way justice is handled in the country, in that people may be afraid to step up and testify against some of these criminals. Now, on page 14, economists cut Kenya's growth outlook. Global economists have marginally cut Kenya's growth outlook for 2022, largely on rising external debt costs and reduced investor confidence ahead of the August 9th elections. This is something that happens every electioneering period, where our economy comes to a slowdown because people do not have faith in the stability of the country during this period, and even sometimes even after. Now, Kenya's real GDP, a measure of economic output adjusted to inflation, has a history of slowing down during election years when firms put investment decisions on hold pending a return to normalcy in the political landscape. During the 2017 general elections, economic growth slowed to 3.82% from 4.21% the year before, while in 2013 it decelerated to 3.8% from 4.57%, according to GDP figures, which have been revised following last year's rebasing of the economy. The aftermath. This is why violence, especially during the politicking period, is terrible for everyone across the country. The aftermath of the deadly December 2007 presidential election sank growth to 0.23% in 2008 from 6.85%, while in 2002 it slowed to 0.5% from 3.78% the year before. The same trend was witnessed in 1997 when growth dropped to 0.48% from 4.15%, and in 1992 when it contracted to negative 0.8% from 1.44% with the onset of multi-party elections. Dear Kenyans, please keep the peace. We cannot afford an economic slowdown, especially at a time when we still haven't recovered from the impacts of COVID-19 and with the war raging in Ukraine and Russia, where we saw last week how that war could affect us and affect the price of fuel, that is petroleum, which affects the price of all the other commodities in the market, electricity included, and even some of the foodstuffs that we are consuming. So please do not make the matter any worse for any one of us. Keep the peace.
Well, still on the economy and COVID-19, there's an interesting story about Kenyans importing 325 helicopters ahead of August polls, and this story is on the page 31 of the Standard newspaper, and there is a chart there showing how many helicopters have been imported in what year. And in 2013 there was just 5. Actually, From 2013 to 2019, there has not been more than 5 imported helicopters in Kenya. However, in 2020 alone, Kenyans imported 325, while in 2021 they imported none. Well, this story continues to explain the value of chopper, which is around 3.6. The choppers are valued at 3.6 billion collectively. And these helicopters comes in a time where more Kenyans had been rendered jobless by the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemics. There were no helicopters imported from South Africa last year. However, about 519 engines valued 1.6 billion were brought into the country from South Africa in 2021. That is machines, engines. That is 519, while the 325 is complete helicopters. I know you love machines.
I do.
Well, the numbers could be higher since some people shipped in helicopters from other parts of the world, including Europe, US, or Asia. Why could these numbers be high? According to this writer, many of these choppers have been imported by politicians, and most of them are being imported to be hired for politics, because at this time aspirants are going to lorries in choppers and all the glamour. Well, and what is the cost of hiring a chopper? According to standard, hiring a chopper, however, does not come cheap. The cost is calculated per hour according to seat capacity. The charges for hiring, example, a 3-seater chopper is between 129,420 and 161,775. If the capacity is more, it ranges from 183,345 to 215,700. In the run-up to an election, the rates could go higher due to demand. Well, hiring might be more affordable than buying. Why? An example here given is a Bell 407 chopper manufactured in 2001. For instance, goes for 199.5 million, as listed by vbuyer.com if bought from South Africa. Many could be wondering, is there a regulation for this? All these airplanes and the airway? Well, there is, as remember, the price I've given you does not include fuel.
Ooh.
It does not include fuel, and it does not include registration with Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, that is KCAA. So, however, other models that could go for more, that is just the Bell 407, 3-seater and around 4-seater. However, if you go for another model, it could be higher. But as a measure of ensuring the country's skies are safe, KCAA does not allow just any plane to be registered. Choppers do not only ferry politicians, they also ferry senior helicopter pilots, among other service providers like medics. But I don't know whether you Kenyans knew how much it is to hire a helicopter, but now you know. If you're intending to go high and then have some few hundreds of thousands, and it will be well with you.
Well, two things that come to mind when just as you were reading that story. First thing is, what do people know that we do not? I mean, 325 helicopters imported into the country at a time when most of us were, well, lamenting about the price of milk.
And let me compare that with 2005, 2013, 2013. They were very few. Actually, it was around 25% of what came into the country. So it's quite a high number. And just as you asked, what do people know that we don't?
Yes. And the second thing, I read somewhere a quote about helicopters. You know, airplanes usually manipulate the air so that they can take off.
Yeah.
Well, someone was comparing that to helicopters, and he said that helicopters do not fly. They beat the air into submission. And if that is not just to show how powerful those machines are, I do not know what is. But away from the machines, because if we dwell on that story, we will not have time to discuss anything else. Running mate talks angers ANC. Mr. Musalia Mudavadi's Amani National Congress has hit back at Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua over his remarks on Kenya Kwanza Coalition running mate position, saying he has no authority to speak for the alliance. Now, Rigathi Gachagua appeared on a talk show on one of the TV stations in the country, and he said that before they joined, these leaders, that is Honorable Musalia Mudavadi and Honorable Moses Wetangula, knew that the running mate position was reserved for someone from Mount Kenya. But that comment did not sit well with the ANC party, and they now say that he has no authority to speak for the alliance. In a TASS statement by ANC Secretary General Simon Gikuru, the party termed Mr. Gachagua's statement that the running mate slot is reserved for Mount Kenya as premature, untimely, and unwarranted. Now, it's a bit funny to me, because we have had several guests on Hotspot who always feel the same thing, that if the deputy president were to pick a running mate from Mount Kenya, then he would be able to swing the Mount Kenya people to his side, and that would sort of guarantee him the highest office. That is, even though One Kenya Alliance joins the Azimio team, then him siding with Mount Kenya will still give him a fighting chance. And it seems that that has been the agreement within the alliance, his alliance, the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, despite ANC coming out and saying that that may not be the case. So again, it is something that we look to see how it unfolds and what impact it will have on the political landscape in the country ahead of the August 9th elections.
Well, politics is just a game of creating like sort of an imagery. So when Gekuru says that it's untimely, I would agree with him. It is a bit untimely, a bit too early to to remove that one hiding that card you're hiding, and that's basically it. But still on elections, there's risk of dead voters casting ballot after IBC delays audit, and I don't know why you're laughing about this story, but there has always been allegations that there were dead voters casting vote in Kenya. And according to this writer, who is Moses Nyambori, claims of dead voters casting their ballots have been at the heart of alleged election manipulation in the previous elections. According to the Elections Act 2017, the IBC was required to conduct an audit of the registrar 6 months before the general election, a period that has since elapsed. And that story continues to explain much more on what could happen and what could not happen, especially on the risk of dead voters casting ballot after IBC. You can grab a copy of the Standard newspaper and see that. I don't know whether we have time to check the cartoon today.
I actually do not think that we do. My guest is here, and we will be coming up in a short while, that is after this short break, to look at what is happening politically. It is someone that has been on set before, someone that a lot of you have said that his outlook on politics is something that is just something else. So do stay tuned to find out who we are talking about and what we will be discussing on today's hotspot. We will be right back after this short break.